Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first session of this three-part series. This is something that I am just so incredibly passionate about. This has become the heartbeat of my work over time as I work with people and just kind of learn um, what's happening. I don't think that the world is in more pain than it's been before. I don't think that worse things are happening. What I believe truly is happening is people are waking up. People are no longer willing to stay silent when they are seeing and hearing things that are just not okay and not acceptable. And people are being held accountable at new levels. And with this reality, with so much pain in the forefront, those of us who are the healers, who are the people who are on the front lines of loving on people, helping people, bringing restoration, whether that's in an official mental health field, like a therapist or a coach, a counselor, a school counselor, or if that's a healthcare worker, nurses, doctors, lawyers are on the front lines of this. There are just so many of us. And then there are so many people who just have a loving, caring, passionate heart for connecting with other people and bringing restoration to people. And maybe you're the one that your friends or your community or your circle of people always come to. You're the one that is a really good listener and helps people feel um more alive and not more alive necessarily, but just more like you bring comfort and you bring peace and you bring wisdom and connection when they are hurting. So this masterclass is for you. I want to really talk about how some of our God-given gifts were because of the experiences we've had, those gifts have been magnified. And so that's kind of the silver lining. And I'm going to kind of go into the details of that in a bit, because typically those gifts that we have are magnified because of pain or because of things that we've been through that were not necessarily good or pleasant or comfortable, but we've leaned into our skill sets because of those experiences. And so that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. That's like I said, a silver lining, this part of yourself that you've developed. To be a really safe, steady, secure person when in really choppy waters. When somebody is going through a really big storm of life, you can be a safe harbor for them. So I'm going to talk about why we develop that skill and how beneficial it is to us and to our communities, but also then there's a dark side to it. And if we're not careful, if we don't do some restorative work ourselves, then we fall into feeling taken advantage of. We fall into burnout. We fall into feeling empty and lonely and disconnected, even though others feel really connected. And so I'm going to talk a lot about that phenomenon and what that's about. So let me start to share my screen so we can get into it. Let's see. All right, here we go. Feel free to ask questions if you have any. So we're talking here about the rescuer role. Yeah, maybe that will work. All right. Okay, so today it's going to be the rescuer role, kind of what I just explained that we tend to fall into. And the next session, 2 days from now, we're going to be talking about how to empower your clients or how to empower the people that you're serving, how to really be present for them and compassionate and empathetic for them, but in an empowering way versus a way where they feel like they can't live without you. They continue to need your support rather than creating and developing a support system within themselves. And then the third day, we are going to be going into thriving, like how to feel really alive, how to, you're so good at making other people feel so good. And we're going to talk about how to translate those feelings for yourself and how and why that's important. And not just because it would be nice to be happy and feel good and be at peace, but really it is your birthright. It is the greatest desire of God, of the or spirit, or however that's who we're created to be, is to be fully alive in ourselves. And so we're going to go into what that looks like, how to thrive as the person who is bringing healing into the world. Okay, so a little bit about me. I'm Janice. For those of you that don't know me, I am a licensed counselor. I'm a supervisor, and I'm certified in trauma model therapy through the Ross Institute. I've been in practice since 2013. I've been a supervisor since 2016. What that means is basically I'm just licensed to oversee new therapists. So people who graduate with a degree and pass the exams to be a therapist, they have to have 3 years of somebody supervising their work before they can fully practice on their own. So I'm approved to supervise those people. I've worked in mental health hospitals, agencies, school counseling, private practice. So this is kind of, I've kind of been all over the place as far as working for agencies, working for myself, working in institutions. And so I've seen a very wide range of people and how they support and how they help. And so that kind of informs a lot of the things that I'm saying today and the things that I've seen as I'm working out in the field. For me personally, I love to travel. I live abroad right now. I live in Shanghai, China. I spend most of my time teaching and training other therapists and counselors internationally. I'm a part of a few different organizations where I can do that. Plus, I do it here on my own through my own company. And my goal is just to bring therapists, coaches, spiritual leaders, healers into the fullest expression of themselves and who they're created to be, so that you can continue to bring the healing energy into the world that you are living in and that you serve. All right, so I'm on a mission to help healers of this world know how to manage your own anxiety, know how to fully process through your own past experiences so that you can effectively accomplish what you know you're meant to do, which is help people heal. Like, that is what you feel like, a big piece of the purpose of why you're here is to bring healing to other people. So my goal is to give you the tools and the resources and the knowledge and the understanding and everything you need so that you can do it to your absolute highest capacity. Right. So most of us want to feel confident that we don't have any blind spots that are interfering with our work. So those of you who are serving, in a healing capacity, you're on the front lines of bringing that into, working with and serving people, that you don't have any blind spots, that you don't have any unconscious patterns that are interrupting the work, where you're actually causing setbacks for people and you don't know it. You want to be really highly effective without burnout. Many people in healing professions right now are just really burning out. COVID really accelerated a lot of trauma and pain for people. Most practices are completely full, have waiting lists. People and like I said, I don't think actually that it's more pain than the world has ever seen before. I think people are just waking up to the reality that they don't have to be suffering. They don't need to live in pain. There is a way to live where you're not in pain anymore, and they're wanting and seeking help, which is amazing. But that means those of us who are bringing that need to be even more equipped, right? You want to feel inspired by your work and not get distracted by how other people are doing it and how other people are serving. And should I do it this way or should I do it that way? There's a way for you. And I want to empower you to feel confident in the role that you play, whether that's an official role working as a therapist or a coach, or whether that's serving people within your community in some way, or your friends, for you to feel really confident in the way that you know that you want to bring healing into the world. And then feel energized at the end of your day, feel energized with the work and the service that you provide, versus feeling really drained and depleted and overwhelmed and kind of empty inside. All right, I want you to feel confident that you know how to manage every person that you're serving, whether that means, you know what, this is not my person, I'm going to refer them to somebody else, or this is my kind of person that I love serving and I want to help them and connect with them, and feeling really confident and secure in that decision, and knowing that you are doing them the highest good, whichever way you go with that. That you don't feel guilty when you do need to set boundaries, or when you need to take some time off, or when you need to say no to meeting up. For a friend with coffee, maybe your friend is having a really hard time and they want to meet with you, and you're saying no, or you need to limit your schedule with your clients, and they have an emergency or they have something going on and they really need and want you to find a spot for them. A lot of us struggle to set that boundary and know that we are, we feel guilty, we feel bad. So I want to empower you with that decision. I'm going to definitely explain the rescuer role in a little more detail so you understand fully what that means, and that you want to feel confident you're operating as your highest self. You're a functional adult. All of us have these places within us. Many would call it the wounded child, the part of us that maybe didn't get fully developed because of some painful experiences that we've had. And so that sometimes that part of us can inform the way we relate to other people. I'm going to explain that in more detail in a bit. So I want you to feel confident that you are, when you're serving and working with other people, that you're functioning as your highest self, as your fully adult self. And one last thing, like, it's amazing to me that they don't teach this stuff. Like those of you who have been through official formal training programs for therapists, coaches, nursing programs, all of those things, they don't teach this stuff. They really don't. This is why I'm here, why I'm going to be shouting this from the rooftops as much as I can for the rest of my life, because I want people to really, you have such a heart for helping and loving on people. And when you gain this information that I'm going to teach you over the next 3 sessions, it's going to feel so empowering for you. And that's ultimately what I want. And this is a quote from one of the counselors that have been through my programs before. And she said, I thought I had studied everything that I love researching and studying. I'm always reading about trauma. I'm always reading about transference and countertransference and like what that is and how to stay out of it. And she's like, I've never heard any of the stuff that you're teaching before. So hang in there with me. Definitely ask questions if you have some. Let's get into what this is all about. So most of us get into this profession because we're ready to pay it forward. We love seeing other people heal and grow. We want to make an impact on the world. We know what it means to suffer. We know what it means to feel pain, to feel loss, and we don't want anyone else to have to experience that again. We'll do everything in our power to try and help other people feel safety, comfort, connection, some of the things that were missing for us. For many of us, it comes really naturally. It's just part of who we are, and we're very empathic in nature. We feel other people, we feel their pain. And so part of our God-given gift is to be able to be really present with them and really connected and to help. Kind of the picture I have is like, there's this frantic energy around us, and we just bring this calming energy to the room, this connected energy to the room where people can just kind of settle in and feel safe. And it's likely that you're maybe fascinated by human behavior and love learning and studying. And many of you are like me and the counselor that I just mentioned, where you're always researching and thinking and looking and studying, and it's just fascinating to you and you're curious about it. However, many of us feel really burned out and stressed. We have a hard time, if you've been in this space for a long time, if you have been the person who's been the constant, the steady, the connector, the one that everyone leans on all the time, the one that everyone calls when they're upset or when they're feeling troubled, or you've been serving, your clients for many years, it can get really hard. It can start to feel overwhelming and just kind of a burnout, or you lose that, like, man, it used to feel really good to watch people transform, but I'm struggling to really care anymore. And that feeling may even kind of scare you. And then it's hard to focus on the people that you love. It is very, very common for therapists or counselors, therapists to have really messy personal lives, have personal lives that, where we really struggle to make personal connections. We're very powerful and good at the work that we do with our clients, but then our families many, many, many times are a little bit fragmented and disconnected, and we're unable to kind of translate that energy into our personal life. And I'm going to explain why that is, what's really happening. Okay, so most of us who are the healers, the fixers, the ones who are very present, empathic, have had some really painful adverse life experiences. And through that trauma, through those painful experiences, we hyper develop skills to be able to overcompensate or compensate for what we've experienced. So some of those skills are, we're able to read a room really well, meaning Let's say you grew up in a home where a parent was highly volatile, or maybe an alcoholic, or had some form of an addiction. When you grow up in a home like that, you become really, really hyper attuned at reading people's moods. And it's out of safety for yourself, right? So like if dad comes in and he's drunk, then you know as a kid to stay invisible, make sure the room is clean and perfect so that he doesn't get upset, and then you kind of stay out of the way, right? Like you kind of learn how to read the emotions of the people around you, caretakers especially, because this is how you create safety for yourself. So it's obviously it's very sad that you had to develop that skill, but it is a skill that you get to use the rest of your life. And I'm going to explain how this works, like kind of that's the silver lining that you've developed, but we need to work on some of the pain that goes around that skill that you developed. So you have a lot of wisdom and understanding what's actually happening. You can, maybe other people are confused about what's really going on here, but you can like get right down to it and see the wisdom and have wisdom in what's actually really happening. We are really good listeners, right? We know how to soothe other people mentally, emotionally. We have deep conversations with people, and many of us struggle with just basic small talk conversations. We'd rather have deep conversations. And many of us have a smaller friend circle because we don't really like having to navigate a lot of surface level connections. We like just a few really deep connections. And so our belief systems, because we had to develop these skill sets, we also created some belief systems around these skill sets. So when you have experiences that feel really out of control, we try to gain control often by blaming ourselves for all that's happening. So this is a very normal thing. So kids before the age 7, literally, it's developmentally appropriate for a child to think the world revolves around them. They cause everything that's happening. Everything that's happening is related to them. So if you have, we'll use the example with an alcoholic father. If you have an alcoholic father, it's very normal for a child to think, I'm doing something to cause him to act like that. It's because I don't keep my room clean. It's because I left my Coke can in the living room. It's because I didn't make good enough grades. It's because, like we will find a way to blame ourselves. And this gives us a sense of control, right? Like we can't really tolerate the feeling of an adult or a caretaker is not able to take care of me and really see me for no reason. So I have to create a reason, and that makes like, oh, okay. Well, it's still uncomfortable and I don't like it and I feel sad, but I understand why it's happening. It's because I caused it. So you may notice this a lot with the people that you work with, that you'll often hear language around, I deserve what's happened. I'm meant to live a life of suffering. If I had to parent me, I would be frustrated too. I was a really frustrating kid to handle. I was really naughty, or I was really acting out in a lot of ways, or maybe they may say something like, I caused bad things to happen. So this is all a form of the person has internalized from a very young age that they caused bad things to happen. And the reason they internalize this thought process is to help them feel like they are in control of what's happening. Again, they still feel sad, they still feel disconnected, they still feel lonely, but there's a reason for it, so it's okay. Right? So, and maybe even you have developed some of those thoughts, or maybe you struggle with thinking like, it doesn't matter if I'm suffering, I just want to be sure the people around me are happy, or as long as my people are happy, I'm happy. I don't really have needs. I don't, so let's say your family is going out to eat and they're like, where do you want to go? Almost always this person will say, I don't care, it doesn't matter, whatever you want. Right? Or what would you like? What do you need? Almost always, whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't care as long as you're happy. Right? And then we tend to think that God's will is that I help people, not that I'm happy. Like that's not his plan or his purpose. Or I feel guilty and selfish if I think about me. My purpose is to focus on others. It feels weird to focus on me. I feel like that's not appropriate, or that's not okay. So if you're having some of these thoughts, first of all, I just want to say it's very normal. It's very normal that you have these thoughts. We are very clever and good at making these thoughts feel very justified, feel like they are right and they're true. And it's very settling for us when we feel these thoughts. That's why this is confusing, is because when you formulated that thought, you were in a very unsettling environment. You were in a very helpless, maybe even hopeless situation that was chaotic or confusing, ungrounding. There was no grounding to it. There was no sense of safety. And this thought brings grounding and safety, because if I can blame myself, if I can say I'm meant to be in suffering, it's good that I'm suffering, God wants me to suffer, or as long as other people are happy, then I'm happy. This grounds us into trying to create truth in an environment and in a situation that feels really chaotic and unsettling and frustrating. It's like a way of bringing safety to ourselves, but it's at a very high cost. So I'm going to talk about that cost and what that is, what that belief is, how that belief is driving your own behaviors in your own life and in your work with your people, and how it's perpetuating more pain and suffering. Okay. So like I said, it's a cognitive distortion that helps us make sense of something that didn't make sense before. Okay, so you have an incredible natural talent for seeing and listening to other people, which makes you really effective and powerful in the healing profession that you choose, or in how you want to love on and serve other people. You know you're talented, you see results, people feel safe with you. You probably often hear something like these quotes here, like, I can tell you anything, I feel so safe with you, you're such a good listener, I can't imagine not having you in your life. Most of us have the people around us love being with us, and they do feel grounded and safe with us. They do feel like they have a sense, like they just love the connection. They feel very connected. But it's also very normal for us to feel a little bit empty. Maybe it's like slightly agitated or frustrated, bored and lonely. And often like you just don't care. Like I'm losing my ability to really care. And I know for me, when I started to go there, it really scared me, because I knew that I was meant to do this work. I knew I was good and powerful at this work. But it wasn't bringing the fulfillment that I thought it would bring. And I often thought that that meant, oh, it's because I don't have this degree yet. It's because I'm not trauma certified yet. Oh, it's because I'm working in an agency and I actually need to be working in private practice. Or, oh, I'm working in a school. Maybe I need to be, we think it's like these external things that are causing this feeling. And we may even start to wonder, like, does this mean I'm a bad person? Or does this mean I'm not really supposed to be doing this? Or like, what does this actually mean? And so because of the belief systems we've developed, we double down on that. No, like, I know that I'm meant to help other people. I know that that's right and that that's good. And so I'm going to continue to sacrifice myself in service for others, because I fully believe that one day something's going to happen where it's going to all work out, or it's going to pay off, or somebody's going to actually get it, or somebody will see me and thank me. Or, like we kind of double down and hang on to this dream that we are going to bring healing to the world, and then the world will thank us in some way for this. So I'm going to talk about, again, just some more details about this, how we can kind of unravel this line of thinking. You don't have to change anything about your job. You don't have to change anything about how you love on and serve others. It's the belief systems and the meanings behind the behaviors that you're doing that need to change, that will shift everything and bring new life into your sense of self. Okay. So what hasn't been addressed yet is that you have this head knowledge and you have this natural talent, but you are unconsciously playing a role instead of being your authentic self, being who you truly are, right? So when we are unconsciously playing a role, then we're not showing up as our true self. We're not showing up as who we're meant to be, who we are within our purpose. And we're not fully alive in ourself. We are hiding behind this self-protective shield of a role. And the role is And when you play a role, that's why you feel bored, empty, burned out, frustrated, want to quit, not really seen, um, wanting connection. Like, we're mammals. We're hardwired for connection. We have to have it to feel alive and to thrive and to be really present and excited with life and feel like we're getting it, as much as we can out of life, and self-actualize to our highest self, the person that we're really created to be. In order to be that person, you can't be playing a role. You have to be yourself. You have to be fully embodied in who you're created to be, fully alive in that person, serving others and allowing them to see you and give back to you. And it's the cyclical experience that's so powerful. But when you're hiding behind this protective shield of a role, then it can cause other people to feel really good, but it's not your truest, highest expression of yourself. So that's where the emptiness and boredom and frustration comes from. So what this role is the rescuer role. It's a behavior pattern, like I've described, where we are consistently stepping in to save others at the expense of our own needs. So when we have these experiences as a kid where, for whatever reason, your emotional needs, maybe for your physical needs too, but for sure your emotional and mental needs were not being met, we make a decision. We decide, I don't have needs. This is totally unconscious. It's not like you sit down on the edge of your bed and decide, I'm not going to need anything anymore. You just, over time, just unconsciously make the decision like, okay, I figured out that if I keep the living room and kitchen like super clean, my mom is nice to me when she comes in instead of comes in yelling. So you figure out how to do something or take care of someone in some way, or disappear. Maybe you figure out as a kid, like, if I stay in my room with the door closed, then my parents don't yell at me. They're not frustrated with me. They seem calmer and happier. And then I can maintain a sense of connection with them. So we figure out what we need to do or not do in order to maintain that connection. And like I said, that we're hyper developing these skills of reading people so we can figure out without them telling us what they need and what they want. And then we learn to meet that need. And so you can see how now professionally we have clients coming to us, people coming to us who have really deep needs and wants. We can read what they need and what they want without them really even talking to us, and we can meet those needs. We can connect with them. We can validate how they're feeling. We can sit with them in their pain. It doesn't scare us. We know how to be really present with them in their suffering, and that's soothing for them. It's comforting for them. It's calming for them, and they feel really good. Um, and it's not that we need to stop doing that. What we now do is we have to, and that's what the next couple of sessions are going to be about, how to do that and also show up with our own needs. Now, not with our clients, of course, but in our personal lives. We have our own needs that most of us are totally unaware that we even have, because it's a part of us that we never really got to develop over time. So before we get into all that, let's talk a little bit more about the rescuer role. So if you have a core belief that is based in fear, that that you're not enough. And this could be a pervasive feeling that you're not quite enough in every area of your life, or it could be more in certain areas of your life. So maybe as a mother, you know that you've made a lot of mistakes, or you're worried that you've made a lot of mistakes, and you just have this this nagging feeling in the back of your mind, like, oh, I'm failing. I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. I don't know if I'm doing it right. I don't know if I'm really capable. Then then shame is what kind of tends to take in. The world feels unsafe in that area, and you close your heart in self-protection. Maybe this is how you feel in romantic relationships, or maybe this is how you feel at work. There are, some of us have this feeling of, I'm not going to make it, generally in all areas of life. Some of us, for different reasons, have developed some pretty resilient skills, and we feel really confident in some parts of our life, while in other parts of our life, we're still really kind of stuck in this. I'm not sure if I'm really safe here. I'm not sure of who I really am. I'm not sure that I can really confidently express who I am. It feels scary. And that's when we go into that really black and white thinking, like all good or all bad. We're often leading with fear. and we close ourselves off, we close our heart in self-protection. Okay, so when this is happening, those of us who are the healers and the helpers of the world, this is when we step into the rescuer role. We compensate for this feeling of fear. We compensate for feeling like we're not enough by wanting people to like us and being very good and very effective at leaning forward, meeting other people's needs so that they will like us. You may hear terms like people pleaser. You may hear terms like the fawn trauma response. All these are kind of circle around the rescuer role that a lot of people play. It's not that most of us are, it's not that we have needs that we are too scared to ask for, although that happens sometimes. A lot of times we're not even aware of what we need. Many people that I work with who are deeply entrenched in the rescuer role don't know what their favorite music is. They don't know what their favorite kind of food is. They don't know what their favorite color is. They don't know what their favorite, I mean, they're so disconnected from their sense of self and so invested in ensuring that the people around them are healthy, happy, safe, comfortable. So if this is a woman, she's married to a man, oftentimes, she works very hard to ensure that he feels good and that he feels comfortable. He gets to do anything and everything that he wants to do. And she's often like managing all the stuff in the background, trying to navigate, making sure he feels good and he feels comfortable. So, and then she's often doing that with her children as well. Right. So she is making sure that they feel safe and comfortable. They're not uncomfortable. And I'm going to talk about how this is problematic. And then we're also do it with our clients, right? So like if you have a client who calls and is crying and upset and my husband just left me or I just had a flashback of a memory, then if we're in our rescuer, then we will, okay, my schedule's full today, but I'll squeeze you in at lunch and we'll skip a lunch, or you'll stay an extra hour after work and miss your kids' basketball game, or you'll do something to bend your boundaries in order to ensure that they feel this, that you're able to soothe them, because that's where your sense of self is based. Your sense of self is based in making sure other people feel good and safe and connected and happy while you are feeling, while you're compromising your boundaries in order to make that happen. Right. So that's when it becomes troublesome. It's not that you are good at helping people and helping soothe people and meeting their needs. It's that you do it at the cost of your own sense of self and the own life that like I said, going without lunch in order to meet somebody's need versus nourishing your body and letting your brain and your nervous system take a break from the help and support that you're providing people all day long. All right. So what happens when we play this role, when we get stuck in this pervasive need to make sure others are okay, and we can't really tolerate if somebody around us is uncomfortable most of the time. If you're fully in a rescuer role and somebody is sad or upset or disappointed or frustrated or angry or whatever, like you can't tolerate that feeling and you will do whatever. You will, if your partner, your spouse is frustrated or sad that they can't go buy the thing they want to buy, then you will go buy it and put it on a credit card, even though you can afford it, to give it to them just to make sure that they feel happy and that they feel content and you feel so satisfied in that moment. Or if your children are upset about something, then you will do what, you'll bend over backwards to make sure because we can't typically tolerate somebody around us being upset. So where that's rooted is, as children, when our caretakers were upset, we experienced disconnection, and disconnection is a life or death situation as a child. So that's why it feels so threatening to us. If somebody around us is frustrated or upset, it like that line is still drawn and connected back to who we are as little people, where it was like I said, a very big deal to experience the disconnection of somebody being upset, a caretaker being upset in our life. And so we would do whatever we needed to do to calm them in order to maintain that sense of safety and connection. And that's just a pattern that we're unconsciously repeating in our adult life. Right. So many people say, like, what's the big deal? Like this, why is that a bad thing? Why is it a bad thing for people to feel good and to feel safe and connected? Well, my answer is that it's not always a bad thing. But if you are feeling a little frustrated and empty, for one, this is a piece of why. But two, what happens is when we play a rescuer role, then we force the people around us to also play a role. Or we only connect with other people who are also playing a role. Somebody who is in their full, authentic, true self is not going to be, there's not going to be any kind of attraction to somebody playing a role because there's a lack of authenticity there and they may not consciously recognize it, but they can feel it. Whereas if you are playing a role, then you are going to magnetize and attract to somebody else who's also playing a role just from a different angle. So one of the other angles is somebody who is in I can't, who refuses to give. So a rescuer doesn't like receiving gifts, doesn't like people doing anything for them. They will go out of their way to make sure that they don't need anything. And if somebody offers, like, can I get this for you? Can I do this for you? Can I bring you something? No, 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 I'm fine. I got it. Thank you very much. Like, we would rather die than let somebody do something for us or help us in some way, right? Whereas the victim is stuck in, I don't know how, I can't do this, I can't fix it, like I can't take care of it, please help me. They are kind of stuck in that I can't do it place and they won't give anything. And so this rescuer and this victim are very magnetic to each other. And it's understandable why, because we are stuck in full give mode, we can't receive anything, and they are stuck in full receive mode, they have nothing to give. And so together it feels very soothing and satisfying and like a perfect match. So if you find yourself often attracting partners who are kind of in this, like they refuse to do things for themselves, they don't ever really see you, they don't help you out, you feel taken advantage of, you feel like they're always like, gimme, 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 more, 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 like they're never satisfied. This is why. This is why you're magnetizing and attracting these kind of people in your life. So when it comes to the work that we do as and working with our clients, we unconsciously create a pattern where they need us because it feels so good for them to need us. And it feels really soothing for them. Like, oh, she gets me. She's going to take care of me. She understands. She is going to manage this for me. What a relief. I'm so glad I found her. I can't live without her. I'm going to make appointments every week, or I'm going to, like they are, and there obviously are seasons of time where people need appointments every week, but if it's really long term, if they're developing a sense of, I'm okay as long as I have you, then we're actually causing more harm. We're perpetuating a role within ourselves and perpetuating a role within them. We're not encouraging them to become fully autonomous and independent and create and develop this really true sense of self. And so this happens professionally. This can happen with friends too. Like a friend is like, I can't manage my life. I need to process with you in order to manage my life. So initially that feels really good, but after months or years of this, we're like, oh my God, can you not just take care of yourself? Can you not just deal with your situation? Can you not just handle this one time? We do that with our kids, we do that with our partners, and we do that with our friends. If we perpetuated this role of I take care of everything, then it just breaks down over time. And when it breaks down over time, one of you will act out. I'm in control now. I'm not going to give or receive. I'm done with this, right? So what happens, like if you're the rescuer and you're partnered with somebody who's stuck in I can't, they will often begin to describe you as being mothering or smothering or not giving them space, or they need their independence. And that's typically when they will act out and cheat, or they will act out and, start hiding money that they're spending or gambling, or they'll do something to prove like you're not going to control me. I can be my own person. I can decide what I'm going to do. Or the rescuer will slide over and like, I'm done with you. I'm done trying to help you. I'm done, and I've watched or I've seen professionals do this, like refuse to continue seeing a client after they've developed this relationship where the client is highly dependent on them, and then it gets sticky for them. They can't handle it anymore. They get tired of handling it. Then they just are like, I'm referring you out, I'm dropping you. And it causes so much pain for the client because they have developed this dependency on them and then dropped them. They've created a pattern of pain and suffering that the client has experienced over and over. They've fallen back into the trap of perpetuating pain. Right. So this is a dynamic at play when our heart is closed in self-protection, when we're not sure that we're safe, when we're not sure that we can trust ourselves, when we're not sure that we're going to be okay. We need to know how things are going to play out. We need to know how things are going to go. Then we are on the triangle. Then we're playing one of these roles. So this is we move along different points on this spectrum. So there might be a role that you are most comfortable playing, like we're talking about the rescuer role today. So it's very likely that you're most comfortable playing the rescuer. But depending on the situation and what's happening, we switch from point to point, right? But the purpose is if in the center you're feeling like you're not enough, or feeling unsafe, or feeling unsure, or feeling fear, and fear is the leading energy, then you are going to play one of these roles. This is how we act in self-protection, right? And then we get really sad and frustrated and mad, like, and want to blame God. Like, why am I still suffering? Why am I'm this many years old and I'm still in pain. I'm still suffering. God must not love me. He must want a life of suffering for me. He must want me to not be happy. He must want me to not, we have all these thoughts about what it means when actually we are doing it. When I play the rescuer, I am perpetuating my own suffering because I am not showing up as my true authentic self. I'm not allowing my heart to be present and available. I'm closed in self-protection. And when I'm closed in self-protection, I am in suffering, and I am perpetuating my own suffering. And we have free will, right? Spirit, God, however you want to call that energy is going to allow us to make the choices that we make. And when I am closed in self-protection, and when I feel that my only purpose in life is to make other people feel safe and happy, then I'm only going to attract people who need me only to make them feel safe and happy. And I am perpetuating my own suffering. And I'm perpetuating theirs as well. But it's confusing because initially it feels very soothing and satisfying. It feels very good because it's soothing an old wound. It's soothing a fear, right? If I have a core belief that I'm not enough, that that who I am is unacceptable, I'm only acceptable for what I can do, for what I can provide. When somebody sees what I do and what I provide and is like, "Ah, thank you, this is amazing," then we're like, oh, I am acceptable. I am okay. We need that transaction to feel the sense of okay, rather than just believing we are good and we're okay and we're lovable just as we are. It doesn't matter what the transactions are. So these relationships are transactional. They are not authentic. They have to be based in transactions. And that's why we need new relationships, because we need a new person to go, oh my God, you're amazing. I wish I could clone you. This is awesome. Wow. And we get that hit when we're in a new environment. And so we work, and we feel so good, overworking and over satisfying and overextending ourselves. But then after a few months or after a few years, we're exhausted, we're drained, we're burned out, we are overwhelmed, we feel empty, it's frustrating. And then we get angry that we've been taken advantage of once again. And then that's when we go into the story of, the universe must hate me. Everybody's out to get me. I'm meant to be in suffering. No, you're not. You're just playing a role. You're not showing up as your real self. And so you're perpetuating your own suffering. All right. So, this is, I've kind of already talked about it, but we're inadvertently creating a scenario where we continue to perpetuate cycles of pain for ourselves because it's most of the time because it's unconscious. But even for some of us, when it becomes we're like, oh, I see that I'm playing a role. It feels really risky and scary to step out of that role. And because, I talk about it like it's a language, like this is the language I've learned to speak from the very beginning is rescuer language. Now you're asking me to speak a whole different language that feels overwhelming, that feels scary. I don't know how to do that. Where would I start? Right. So, um, if you that's kind of what the next two classes are going to be about, like how to unwind this class is mostly about you identifying like, okay, am I in this rescue role? Is this something that I'm doing? How much am I perpetuating my own pain and suffering by living life with a closed heart without even realizing it's closed? Most of us don't realize it's closed because we have such a heart for people, right? We see other people's pain and we want to meet their needs and we want to connect with them and make them feel safe and help them feel safe and wanted. And so we're like, my heart's not closed. My heart's very open. I see pain and suffering all over the place, and I'm connecting to people everywhere. Yes, that part of your heart where you see other people and connect with them is open, but the part of you where you show up with your vulnerabilities, with your needs, with your wants, with you knowing what your favorite color is, what restaurant you want to go to, the kind of music you like to listen to, the things that really bring you comfort and safety and joy. You've abandoned that part of yourself. That part of your heart is what's closed. And that is where you really feel your sense of self, where you really feel seen and valued and validated and alive and happy and joyful and full of the fruits of the spirit that we hear about, but we don't necessarily feel. And it's confusing because we bring those feelings to the people around us, but we ourselves are not feeling them. Okay, so this is kind of what I want you to ponder and think about over the next 48 hours before the next class. This rescuer role, how are you playing it? What does it look like for you? How pervasive is it? Is it in every area of your life? Is it only in a few areas of your life? And what does it cost you? Like, how have you played that out with people? And so the next time we come in, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about how to step out of this role and how to really empower the people that you're connected to and connected with and empower yourself at the same time. And then day 3, we're going to move into thriving as a healer, how to open up that part of your heart that's closed in self-protection, some really practical tools on what that looks like. And then I will invite you to what that feels like, to really be able to feel alive and feel satisfied in the purpose that you're stepping into and that you're living as a healer, and give you that. It'll take away the burnout. It'll take away the sense of being taken advantage of, all of those things that are kind of happening behind the scenes, even though you're really good at connecting to other people. So I've created a tool. Let me stop sharing really quick so I can find it. I've created a tool to help you be able to identify. Let's see if I can get to it. Here we go. It is this one here. Oh. Okay, well, it's not wanting to share my screen. Let me see if I can get out of this and try one more time. Here we go. this. Okay, hang on. Okay, there we go. So you have this in the portal. It's something you can just download and keep on your computer. You can download and print it, but it's a checklist for you to identify some general indicators of a rescuer role, what it looks like in professional settings, what it would look like in your personal life, some emotional signs that you are a rescuer. So this, again, it's not diagnostic in any nature. It's just for you to kind of identify how pervasive this is in your life, and what are some of the underlying, when we're bringing something from our unconscious mind to our conscious mind, sometimes it can take a little bit of time for us to really figure out, like it's a new concept, right? So it takes some time for us to figure out like how pervasive it is and how much it's really impacting who we are. Okay, so we will go into what to do about this in about 48 hours. So I hope you spend the next little bit of time thinking, processing, trying to figure out. I'm gonna stop the recording and then be happy to answer any questions if you have them. Just a moment.